$9.99 a bag. And save $50 on a Milwaukee M18 Compact Brushless Drill Driver Kit, now only $149. And save big on Milwaukee tools during Milwaukee Deal Days, February 20th through the 26th at Fleet Farm.
The place you want to go, Lynch McWanago.
Nobody sells for less than Lynch.
Breaking news as it happens. Stay up to date with your trusted and relevant source in news, sports, traffic, and weather. We are Wisconsin's radio station. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
At 9 o'clock, it is 42 degrees, on our way potentially to a high of 50 today. It will be breezy as well. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Adam Roberts. A driver arrested after a car flips onto its roof near Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport overnight near Howell and Edgerton. Police say the driver lost control, rolling the car around 2:30 in the morning, and is being treated now for serious injuries while also arrested on suspicion of OWI. As the country marks 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, President Zelensky saying he would step down if it meant peace for his country. Over the weekend, Zelensky is saying he would willingly trade his position for immediate NATO membership. The nation has been heavily dependent on U.S. military aid in resisting Moscow, but that aid may be gone under the Trump administration. Meanwhile, in southeast Wisconsin, a rally for Ukraine in downtown Milwaukee.
We actually have quite a sizable diaspora here. It's estimated that we have close to 10,000 Ukrainians or people with Ukrainian roots in Wisconsin, and we might have even more newcomers.
Karina Twiddell is a board member with Wisconsin Ukrainians. She's one of about 200 people who gathered with blue and yellow flags near Museum Center Park on Wisconsin Avenue on Sunday.
My parents actually had to flee their home when the Russian tanks started rolling down their street in Donetsk. That area continues being occupied by Russia.
In Milwaukee, Jessica Gatso, WTMJ News.
Confusion continues this morning in Washington as tens of thousands of federal employees have received an email demanding they list their accomplishments of the last week or, as Elon Musk warned on X, face losing their jobs. But some Trump cabinet members are now pushing back on that email. ABC's Rachel Scott.
Newly confirmed FBI Director Kash Patel telling employees to pause on responding. And the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, writing, given the inherently sensitive and classified nature of our work, employees should not respond. The State Department and Pentagon telling employees to hold off, too. Some Republicans on Capitol Hill expressing concern.
Here at home, Congressman Glenn Grothman tells NBC 26 at a town hall in Oshkosh he fully supports the Department of Government Efficiency's efforts to curb federal spending.
I'm going to give DOGE some of my own ideas on how to cut spending. So yes, it's always a good time to have an agency out there whose goal it is not to add more spending, but to reduce some of the spending that's already happening.
Meanwhile, Wisconsin's version of DOGE, the Assembly Committee on Government Operations, Accountability, and Transparency, or GOAT, has not held a meeting since it was announced by Assembly Speaker Robin Vos last year. And the Vatican has released another health update on Pope Francis as he remains hospitalized in critical condition today. Emergency physician Dr. Stephanie Widmer telling ABC News.
As we've learned from this particular case, different organs, different organ dysfunction, different symptoms can start to become involved and start to be affected when someone is critically ill. So this requires doctors, and this is going to require his medical team to take a multifaceted approach and look at everything. So there's not just really one particular thing that they're going to be paying attention to.
The Pope has shown signs of mild kidney failure and suffered a prolonged asthmatic respiratory incident over the weekend. Time now for news about your money, the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. All red for the big three. The Dow down 18 points this morning at 43,410. The Nasdaq's off 186 at 19,338. And the S&P 500 down 25 points at 5,988. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. More details at annexwealth.com. Sports, traffic, and your 5-day forecast coming up next. Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:04.
If you need a place for new home interior ideas, then you have to come talk to us. Our on-staff decorators know furniture, home decor, and a lot more. And they're not only creative, but also very willing to help you make great choices. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating taste come to find premium home decor at a value. Design Exchange in Heartland and Pewaukee. Stop in often, because our inventory changes daily.
Design Exchange.
Previously, it has been gently loved. But here, you'll only find very well-conditioned premium home decor items that you likely won't find elsewhere. Distinctive furniture, unique antiques, and original art, and other tasteful home decor at a value. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating tastes come to find premium home decor on consignment at 25 to 40% off retail prices in Heartland and Pewaukee.
Design Exchange.
We've saved our clients over $19 million in real estate commission. I say this because that's a pretty big number. But at Century 21 Benefit Realty, it's really not about being a top volume agency. Over here, it's more about you. And at 1.9% commission and no more than $19,000 commission, for the listing side of your sale, no matter what size property you're selling, you will save substantially. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated. First off, our 1.9% commission structure helps get their foot in the door, and that's why agents like working here. But what they really like is having the strongest marketing tools available, with the resources to help them sell homes at the highest prices to satisfy their clients. Century 21 Benefit Realty offers what agents like most, and that's to help them be successful. If you really want to believe in the business model that you're representing, give me a call. I'm Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty. Call me, and let's talk about your future. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call, That's All Sports Desk. Bucks take down the Heat 120-113 at Fiserv. Giannis and Dame combining for 51 of the team's 120 points. Milwaukee improving to 32-24. They'll visit the Rockets tomorrow in Houston. UW-Milwaukee, meanwhile, crushed by Robert Morris, 72-59. Panthers will host Oakland Thursday night. Elsewhere tomorrow evening, a pair of D1 basketball contests. 15th-ranked Marquette entertaining Providence, while the 11th-ranked Badger men take on Washington. Badger Sports Updates are sponsored by Siding Unlimited. It's siding and a whole lot more. And the Brewers fall in spring training action, 6-1 to the Rockies from Scottsdale. There'll be an exhibition play against the Mariners this afternoon. Let's check the roads. Your WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. Just one incident still up, 94 West, County Highway F, right shoulder block there due to a broken down vehicle. Elsewhere, your drive times are looking good. No incidents across the board and full freeway speeds. And your WTMJ forecast, mostly cloudy, breezy, mild. We'll flirt with 50 degrees today. You will feel the gusts, though. They could be near 30 miles an hour at times. Isolated showers tonight with patchy fog and a low down to 33. Partly cloudy, mostly sunny for your Tuesday, mid-40s for highs. Next rain chance comes on Wednesday with a high of 45. Slight chance for a rain-snow mix Thursday and 43, then back near 50 to end the week Friday under partly cloudy skies. Right now in Madison, it's mostly cloudy and 43, 45 and sunny in Green Bay. Waukesha checking in at 41, and in Milwaukee, we've got some clouds and 42 degrees. I'm Adam Roberts. Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:08.
Good morning, Wisconsin. So let's pour that coffee and talk to some experts about what's going on in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, and beyond. Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. It's the Political Power Hour on WTMJ. Here's your host, Steve Scaffidi.
Should we talk about the government?
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday show. Joining me in studio this morning, this fine February morning in Wisconsin, warming up. Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12 in Milwaukee. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. The sun is shining. What a Monday.
It is. It's going to be one of those days that we look at as we sort of transition. Now, every time I say this, somebody goes, yeah, sure. And then we have a snowstorm like 2 weeks from now that buries us. I get how that works, but here's the cool thing. At this time of year, it generally melts fast, which is what's going to be happening today.
I bet we'll see someone in shorts walking around downtown Milwaukee in the next hour or two.
My grandson wore shorts yesterday.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, so he's already in the spring mode. All right, let's get right to it. Obviously, you do a lot of great interviewing on your program up front, which you can find across the state, across the television network in Wisconsin, which kind of looks at all the key stories, the newsmakers, the game changers, the elected officials, and beyond, campaign of people as well. Yeah. All the big stories. You had two senators, one from each party on. We're going to start with Kelderoy's. I'll play a little bit, and then we'll comment on sort of on what you took away from that interview. This is Kelderoy, state senator.
Is this budget responsible coming from Governor Evers?
It absolutely is. And I would go so far as to say, let's look at the context here. This budget helps repair some of the damage done by 15 years of Republican incompetence and financial mismanagement.
Why not work to reduce taxes for everyone across the board?
Well, because we need to have public services. If we just cut taxes for everybody, including the wealthiest, who have, by the way, have already enjoyed many years of far reduced taxes, then we don't have the money to keep our public schools open.
Here's what surprises me about that interview. Yeah. I'm a little surprised that given that we have a big surplus, we've had a surplus for quite a number of years now, that the Democratic response sort of to what Republicans have said about Governor Tony Evers' budget address is we need more taxes. That surprised me.
I was curious to see how Democrats were going to respond to this, because no matter what side you're on, how you look at it, this is a big spending increase the governor is proposing from the current budget, alongside a new tax bracket and a tax hike for the wealthiest Wisconsinites.
So I didn't see the interview because I had a very busy weekend. But what else did she have to say about some of the nitty gritty details about what Democrats were trying to accomplish? Understanding, of course, that the governor's in their party, but the legislature is not controlled by Democrats.
Yeah, listen, she's a member of the Budget Writing Committee, the Joint Finance Committee, and said essentially Democrats' role in all of this is to highlight the governor's budget, to back the governor's proposal for these spending increases when you look at public schools or transportation or different aspects of healthcare. And from her perspective, Democrats are all in behind this increase in spending in all of these various areas, but also they're going to highlight the proposed tax cuts for the middle class the governor is proposing through property taxes and a number of different sales tax exemptions.
We've seen this argument about tax rebates, tax cuts, certainly cutting a check to people who have paid into the surplus over the last several budgets. Anything seemed different this time than those other times.
And I think what's going to be interesting is how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, because Republicans have said we're going to introduce our own standalone tax cut bill before we even get to the budget. We think we should give this money back from the surplus, and then we'll start talking about budget negotiations. Democrats say, no, we are not going to support that. Democratic vote's not necessarily needed. The governor's signature, of course, would be needed on this. But Democrats say this is irresponsible to talk about tax cuts, not in a whole picture, including the budget.
Any concern from State Senator Calderoy's about some of the issues swirling around education? I mean, this is such a big story.
Huge.
And she obviously mentioned it as far as the funding. But when we're talking about things like literacy, when we're talking about things like the failing MPS school district, she touched on those?
Well, broadly, in a sense, that we need this larger investment, this massive investment into public school education. And I think we're going to see this play out and spill out into the race for Department of Public Instruction for state superintendent. Ahead of the April 1st election, these budget negotiations are going to go on, and we're going to see this big debate, I believe, between school choice, school vouchers, public school funding, and how all of these come together or how they collide.
Just a general sense from a reporter's perspective, do you think that the two parties that are in the legislature, the Democrats and Republicans, are closer or farther apart than they've been in the past few years?
See, listen, I mean, we do this song and dance every budget cycle, right? And every budget cycle we have come to some sort of compromise. So I look at these next couple weeks as everyone makes their points. Everyone is out there talking about what they want. Republicans are going to introduce their budget. And I think eventually, yes, we are going to reach some type of compromise months down the road. I mean, you look at what they did last year with shared revenue with Brewers. There is appetite, and they have proven that the Republican-controlled legislature and Democratic governor can get to some middle ground. No one's going to get everything they want. We'll see how this all plays out. I think the big debate is going to focus initially around these tax cuts and what that looks like.
And I would put that subject at the same level of shared revenue.
Yeah.
Brewers.
Yep.
That's how, because, taxpayers, voters, mostly the same group, have said for a while, we don't see why this surplus is sitting there when we've paid into it. It's not really accomplishing anything other than maybe giving you a sense of that you're doing something positive about running government because you had too much money, I guess, if you look at that as a positive, and not have less than you need. But it's sort of this malaise when it comes to getting something done on this issue.
And how much of a clash is that going to be between just sending it back or investing in education or roads? That there's a big disagreement among Republicans and Democrats sometimes about how to use that money that's just sitting there.
Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12 in Milwaukee, heard from a Democratic state senator. We'll hear from a Republican senator from the state of Wisconsin, Van Wangard, after this on 620 WTMJ.
Warmer temps are on their way, which means it's time for the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin Spring Home Improvement Showcase on WTMJ. I love this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative. Get all the tips, the tricks, and the best practices to improve your home with our trusted partners, including J&J Contractors and Bruce's team at Realty Executives. It's the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin Spring Home Improvement Showcase. Going to be great. It's only here on WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Annex Wealth Management. Can you believe it? March is coming up fast, just a week away. Days are getting longer. Plans are starting to be set. Our list of projects is growing. How about checking something off your list? How about doing something about your investment and retirement planning? Finally taking that step, getting with Annex to get things in order for not just this year, but beyond. I did that a few years ago and never looked back. You heard me talk about them. Maybe your friends and neighbors too. It's time. An investment and retirement plan built by the fee-only fiduciaries. That matters. At Annex Wealth Management makes sense. Head to annexwealth.com. Click on the now famous Get Started button. That's how I got started with Annex. Annex makes it convenient. They can handle it all. Retirement investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, one stop. Meet at one of their 8 convenient locations, which are easy to get to, or if it's easier for you, virtual meetings via Zoom. There's a significant difference between financial advisors. Know the difference. Start at annexwealth.com.
The pulse of the Milwaukee Bucks, straight from a Bucks legend.
Can't get it off. Marcus Johnson will, though. You can't leave him alone for a 12.
Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson on Bucks Plus. Marcus and his son Chris offer a weekly beat on Bucks basketball. Get your questions answered and hear from the biggest names in basketball. Find Here District with Marcus Johnson at bucks.com/plus on the Bucks app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The governor has said, listen, Republicans have cut for years, so now we have to spend a 20% increase in this budget. What do you make of that argument?
Wow. As we started going through and looking at the numbers, they just didn't add up. So this is fuzzy math. Actually, I think there's going to be some proposals coming out from the Republican caucus here in the next week or two. And you will see I think a pretty in-depth tax package that is going to give those dollars back to the taxpayer.
Van Wangard, he's obviously the senator from just south of us here in Milwaukee. Interesting response, obviously different than what you heard from State Senator Kelder Royce.
Yeah.
Not surprised. I think, again, you highlighted it when we were talking in the first segment, this tax cut issue, this sort of what do we do with the surplus is something that I think Republicans, at least the ones I talk to, understand is very, very popular with voters across the state. And it seems like a can't miss. But again, we're talking about the political reality, which is a Democratic governor, and that friction between the two sides.
And how they get a piece of legislation signed by the governor. And they have hinted at, they've kind of given a few hints of what their legislation will look like, which they've said will include tax cuts for everyone. This is a little different than obviously what the governor is proposing. He's proposing a new tax bracket and an increase for the wealthiest Wisconsinites. So to be curious to see how these two mesh. I mean, immediately after the governor's budget address last week, Republicans were out. Words like debt on arrival, liberal wish list on steroids, not going to happen. I mean, they made very clear the path that the governor's proposals are on.
How do Republicans answer, and maybe the senator answered on your show, when you have a governor who has so far put up a roadblock to accomplishing what Republicans want to accomplish, which is sort of reassembling the chairs and sort of getting to a position where people aren't being overtaxed.
Yeah.
We're not building a massive surplus. I mean, this thing's sitting at billions of dollars for years running now. How do they get to some point? We talked in the first segment about this sort of the big picture stuff. I'm not sure the two sides understand how big picture this is yet. Republicans certainly want to do it, but the Democratic governors so far said if it has any benefit to the what does he define as the super rich or the rich?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at his proposal, the new tax bracket would be any married joint filers earning $1 million or more, single filers $500,000 a year or more.
I like to remind people, though, that you see these numbers, and again, you can throw out the $1 million number if you want to, that benchmark, but those are people that paid in.
Yeah.
And unless I'm missing something, when you pay in, typically you get money back out if there's some sort of a rebate or a credit or whatever. Look, it doesn't mean you can't accomplish big things in government. You provided those examples. But on this one, this is now how many years running where we're not getting to a solution on this. Republicans, as much as they want to say dead on arrival to the, whatever the Democrats propose, and I get it, they have the power, they have the control. We'll see if that maintains over the next few years, because there's some ideas that it might not. At least one of the bodies, maybe the Assembly, goes the other way, which will totally change the framework of government in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know that they've found a solution to this one yet.
Well, no, and I don't think they have. And I think you also need to keep in the back of your mind, this is a Democratic governor who is considering a potential bid for a third term as governor in 2026. And as we sit here today, and as we will sit here in the summer, that's a year and a half out. And that's a lot of campaign talk, right? In terms of cutting taxes and who's going to take credit for tax cuts and what those tax cuts are ultimately going to look like. It becomes a political weapon on either side of this argument. So that is in mind in the calculation as well. The political overtones to what tax cuts look like ahead of big elections.
Yeah, and the governor's not showing his cards, at least on what his ultimate plan or decision will be. I think this is sort of, it wouldn't play to his advantage to sort of say, I'm not going to run at this point, I don't think.
No.
It certainly would open up the opportunities for other Democrats in the state to jump in, and I'm sure there's a bunch of those.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to appear to be a lame. If he was not going to run, I'm not indicating either way, but if he was not going to run, you can't appear to be a lame duck governor in the midst of your budget negotiations.
What else was on Senator Weingard's mind?
Listen, we talked a lot about the prison plan. He is chair of the Senate Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, and he even proposed saying, "Listen, we're all talking about this surplus, right? $4.3 billion." Let's maybe consider taking some of that and investing into this major criminal justice reform. Let's debate the governor's plan that he put out. Let's refine it, in his words, as a Republican. But I think, as you've talked about, Steve, in recent weeks, there is this consensus that Green Bay needs to close. How all the other dominoes fall to get all of this accomplished, I think, is where the real debate is going to lie over the next couple months.
It's an interesting situation because I've had lots of conversations about this. Obviously, Green Bay is I think it's the oldest facility by far, built by prisoners. You can see that right on the side of the building when you go up there. And then obviously the city of Waupun, I think they have 5 prisons. Mayor Ron Bishop will correct me if I'm wrong, in that community. They want to be that community that hosts these facilities, and they want to see upgrades. They want to see a reinvestment in making sure that these things are run properly, because you and I both know there's been significant issues. We've had deaths. We've had certainly other problems associated with these facilities. But I think this is another one that says to me there could be some consensus on this thing to get something done if the governor decides this is a realistic proposal.
And listen, Van Wongard gave us kind of some behind-the-scenes play on this, is that the governor's office reached out to a group of Republicans like Senator Wongard, who's on the Public Safety Committee, and briefed them and started these discussions. That typically does not happen. So from the onset, both sides are coming at this saying, listen, we need to have this conversation. Let's have this conversation. We're obviously going to disagree on certain aspects of this plan, but the fact that both sides are saying, let's talk, is more movement than we see on a lot of issues.
Yeah, whether they listen to each other, that's the next question.
Yeah.
Did you get a sense, having both senators on the program, that they were open to that or not?
On the prison reform?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think you talk to Democrats. I think you talk to the governor's office. I think you talk to top Republicans. And I think there is this sense of urgency and the fact that something needs to happen before something bad happens at one of these aging prisons.
Yeah, just taking the pulse that I saw over the last week or so, that there were some Republicans saying, as long as this sort of revision of the prison system doesn't involve just letting people out early.
And Senator
a big
Wongard
point.
exactly hit on that. And the governor's plan does hint at that in some aspects. Is, if you have 4 years left in your sentence, maybe we looked at some earned release, and Republicans want to push the brakes. So I think those details in the weeds are where this is going to get tied up and where a lot of the negotiation is going to happen. But perhaps big picture, let's close Green Bay, let's modernize Waupun. I think that is at least moving forward, at least from a conversation perspective.
Having had both those conversations on your last program up front on Channel 12 in Milwaukee, any other takeaways that I might have missed?
No, I think we're kind of at a similar spot in terms of recent budget negotiations, right? Like the governor is putting everything in the kitchen sink into what he wants, legalizing marijuana, expanding Medicaid, all things that are not going to happen under Republicans. Republicans say all of this is dead. We're rewriting our own version. We've seen this story before. The question is how this now new version and this new chapter will all merge, what the tax cuts will look like, and how the negotiations will continue, and what the federal government, the impact of the Trump administration, that's a new factor in all of this that the governor really wants Republicans to take into consideration.
Yeah, made clear. I had Stephanie Hauser from the WIAA, which is a private organization, but they already are sort of falling into step with what the federal government wants. Yeah. That one had to do with obviously transgender policy with athletics.
Yep.
So that is a real factor in some of these conversations.
And a money factor, too, in terms of federal money, federal grants. The governor has said, listen, we need $500 million at least just set aside like in a contingency for if whatever may happen from the federal government. We'll see how Republicans, respond and think if that's a good idea or not.
Yeah, and the president famously said in a meeting with governors last week, follow our rules and our law, or we're not going to fund your state. He said it to the governor of Maine. All right, Matt Smith. Lots of stuff to talk about. We're going to get to Tom Barrett making a reappearance after his time in Europe. We'll get to that conversation and more right here on the Political Power Hour, 620 WTMJ.
The Upswing with Jeff Sherman.
Todd McLeese from humanskills.ai. I think there's this growing sentiment, Todd, that all these tools, there's some privacy concerns.
At IRS and other government agencies, there are people in the mix. Now, when you talk about DOGE and headcount reduction and so forth, maybe there's some concern there, but I don't think we're there yet.
Weekdays from 10 to 11 on WTMJ. Presented by Horicon Bank, the natural choice for all your banking needs.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi here for Milwaukee Weight Loss. I've been on this journey for about 5 weeks now. Already lost, as of this morning, 29.5 pounds. It's the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat per day. Their doctors have developed easy-to-follow weight loss program. Hey, I can follow it. You can too. Naturally, safely. No drugs, no injections, no risk of serious side effects, no prepackaged meals, bars, shakes, all that stuff. If you don't want to, you don't even have to exercise. Their program helps reset your metabolism so you keep the weight off for good. I'll be on this program throughout the year. Their program costs half as much and works up to twice as fast as other programs. Go to MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com. Schedule your free consultation. Most patients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. Look at me. I'm a success story. You can be too. It's crazy to watch your body lose that much weight, but it's healthy and it's good for you. Schedule your free consultation by calling 262-449-1180. One more time, 262-449-1180 or online at MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com. That's MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com. Results may vary.
At Uline, they know firsthand the road to success is an uphill climb. Uline started in the family basement and through hard work is now North America's most trusted shipping and industrial supplier. They get what it means to have the support of reliable, hardworking partners. So they keep 41,000 items ready to ship. Whether your company is still in a basement office or expanding cross-country, Uline will be there on your road to success. Visit uline.com.
What we've found is that when you have workers who feel valued, you get better results. This is why good people and good culture should matter to anyone looking for an exterior remodeling company they can trust. It's going to be your experience and the end result that gives you peace of mind, because you'll know your work was done by people who care. We realized early on that if we were going to change the reputation of this industry for the better, that finding good workers that you could trust to do great work was going to be the key. We're attracting good people every day because we take care of our people. We want to make sure they feel important because they are. And we're going to make sure you feel important and valued too, with excellent customer service and high quality work. This is Brad Youngbluth with Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. For your new roof, siding, window and door installation, or masonry work, you can count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry, Semper Fi.
Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12 Milwaukee, joining us. Always fun to talk about politics on a Monday. Hope you're having a great day. It's warm out there, warming for February. But as I always tell people, make sure you got the washer fluid because your windows are going to get covered quickly. And if you don't be one of those people, I see them on the road maps.
I'm on low.
Yeah, fill that up.
I will.
I always keep, like right now, in my garage, I have a full bottle because you never know.
See, that's smart.
I've been around longer than you. You're still a youngster in terms of washer fluid expertise. We're going to talk about Tom Barrett real quick. You had a chance to sit down with the former mayor and ambassador. How was the conversation?
Good. Listen, he has a lot to talk about, from President Trump to President Biden to his political future. He's kind of opening up about his time overseas and potentially what may be next.
We'll play some of that, and I've got questions as well because you had a chance to sit down with him. He is Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12 in Milwaukee. We're also going to get to a question at the end of the show, and if you have thoughts about political fatigue, I'm fascinated by this. So we got local news with Connie Weber. Before we get to any of that, here is now the latest from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. A group of federal workers have filed a lawsuit in federal court in California, according to the Associated Press. They say that Elon Musk's weekend email instructing all federal employees to reply with a list of their accomplishments violates the law. ABC's Karen Travers has more on what's followed.
There are mixed messages then coming from the heads of agencies like the FBI, the Director of National Intelligence, the State Department, and the Pentagon, who are advising employees there to hold off right now on replying to this email. They're essentially saying, let's put this on pause. So a lot of questions here over who has the ultimate authority. Is it Elon Musk or is it agency heads?
President Trump meets with French President Macron today. The Ukraine war will be a major topic. Today marks 3 years since Russia's invasion. The world waits for another update on Pope Francis. The 88-year-old still hospitalized in critical condition. And Apple says it's investing $500 billion in U.S. investments. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:31. I'm Connie Weber. 8 people without a place to stay in Madison after an overnight apartment fire. Started on the second floor of the Fisher Taft Apartments just after midnight. Nobody heard. Cause is still under investigation. The Hop streetcar now running at a limited capacity after a crash Sunday in downtown Milwaukee. Department of Public Works says a car ran a red light and crashed into the streetcar near Broadway and Wisconsin Avenue. No injuries. The streetcar will be running a reduced schedule on the M line with service provided to stations every 20 minutes. And that's a wrap on the 2025 sturgeon spearing season. It lasted a full 16 days, did not reach harvest caps, but spearers still harvested over 940 total fish in the Winnebago system, more than twice last year's total. 63 of the sturgeon weighed in at over 100 pounds. Time for some news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Now a mixed bag on Wall Street. The Dow was up 56 points, 43,484. NASDAQ down 170, 19,353. S&P 500 down 17 at 5,995. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at the roads now with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. We have a new crash. It is going to be blocking the right shoulder, so no lane blockage, but this is going to be at I-43 North at Atkinson Avenue. Also I-94 West at County Road F, the right shoulder they're blocked due to a broken down vehicle. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Cloudy, breezy, mild today, high of 50. Isolated showers tonight, maybe some patchy fog, a low 33. Partly cloudy to mostly sunny tomorrow, high 46. Chance of rain on Wednesday, 45 for the high. A slight chance of a wintry mix Thursday, 43. And then partly cloudy Friday, breezy back up to 50 for the high. Right now, 46 in Madison and in Green Bay, 44 at Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:33.
With the help of Less's Glass, you can have the shower you've always wanted. Heavy glass shower enclosures from Less's Glass are installed by the best in the business. And when you have a showroom to visit with over a dozen glass shower enclosures on display, there's no guessing games. See the ultimate in frameless shower design with doors mounted on smooth as silk, stainless steel barn-style rollers. This design combines the beauty and elegance of heavy glass with a minimalist look to create an ideal shower enclosure for tight spaces. Premium shower doors and custom-designed all-glass enclosures. When you work with Less's Glass, you're working with a company that really can do it all. This is Stacy Sinks with Less's Glass Service. If it's a new glass shower door, fogged or broken insulated glass replacement, or affordable glass and mirror home decor that you've been looking for, you just can't pass on Less is Glass. Less is Glass Service, serving all of southeastern Wisconsin. Find us at lessglassservice.com.
Hi, folks. This is Hank Albert, owner of BBC Lighting. At BBC, we sell all the top brands of lights and ceiling fans, such as Visual Comfort, Tech, Schoenbeck Crystal, and hundreds more. We get every brand, and our prices are the lowest. I guarantee it. In our award-winning showroom, you'll also find factory closeouts with lights and fans priced well below their original cost. If it's lampshades or repairs you need, we do all that too. There's something for everyone at BBC, including fun for the kids and our famous free popcorn. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday, 10 to 4, and located at 20th and St. Paul Avenue, across from Sobelman's, near the Potawatomi Casino. Stay safe and healthy, my friends.
Expert Tom Barrett.
That's a really good question. I'm very relaxed right now. I have no plans right now, and I don't know. I mentioned that it's halftime. It's a wonderful halftime. I don't know what's in the second half.
Halftime, does that mean political office?
I don't know. If you ask my wife sitting here, she would say, not on your life. I'm incapable of ever saying never, but I don't know. I really don't know.
If Governor Evers doesn't run in 26, there could be an open governor's.
I think that ship has sailed. Okay. That's my gut tells me that ship has sailed. But I think he's doing a great job. I hope he runs again.
All right. That's former Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett, former ambassador to Luxembourg. I love the questioning. Right on it. And the halftime thing was sort of interesting because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he like 70?
71.
71.
He joked about that, yeah. About I guess technically not halftime unless he,
I don't, and I'm a little bit jealous that you got the interview because I want to have him on the podcast and probably on the show as well. So, Tom Barrett, if you're listening, and I know you're probably paying attention to the media right now,
come on in.
Let's get that set up. Let's not wait. How realistic is it to think he's going to get back in the? I don't see that happening.
No, and this is the question that centers on Governor Evers as well, and I've had other people tell me this too. Ask his wife Kathy, right? And Barrett just referenced this. He said, "Not in my life." But
ironically, my wife is Kathy too, and she would say, "Stay out of politics."
See, smart women.
Yeah.
I think you always have this bug, right? Like once you've been in political office forever, it's hard to erase. It's hard to get rid of that bug to want to either run or be in it or be in the mix. And I think he's just leaving his options open. Clearly, obviously not something like governor, but I think at this point he's just trying not to shut the door on anything.
Serious question though. With the rise of older candidates, right? We've seen senators clearly going into their late 80s. We obviously have Donald Trump, who is now going to be the oldest president ever at some point, and we just had Joe Biden, who's the oldest president ever. Maybe there is no shelf life. Maybe as long as you feel like you're up to it, and he sounds like he's fit, he looks good.
71 is fresh and hip these days.
Yeah, maybe it's what we all need is a few years in Luxembourg to kind of chill and
refresh.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had an interesting conversation about Joe Biden and his age and the transformation being over in Europe and talking with European leaders. And the grave concern, he said, that was expressed in those final months.
What was his take on the Biden decision to step back?
He said it made his job easier as a U.S. ambassador.
How so?
Because Joe Biden was no longer in the picture, and the concern over his age and whether he had the ability to lead the country was essentially taken off. Meaning Joe Biden would be done at the end of December, and that growing concern he described over in Europe wasn't there as much because Joe Biden was not a factor in continuing on.
Did he have an opinion or a take on the fact that sort of what happened was when Biden pulled out was that Kamala Harris, vice president at the time, was anointed? Did he ever?
Yes.
What did
he say? He said, listen, from his perspective out there in Europe, there was excitement towards that rallying around, especially in certain countries, right? Rallying around the fact that Kamala Harris could be the next president. And there was more excitement centered around that as opposed to a Joe Biden continuing the race. And he revealed something interesting. Tom Barrett said he did not watch the debate in real time, and he said he has still not watched the debate to this day.
Turning point of the race.
The turning point in the race because of his concerns over the president's age, and it was almost in a sense describing publicly what a lot of Democrats have not said publicly is that they put on blinders during that moment, right?
The other interesting talking point from Democrats, and I've heard this from both from strategists and folks who are just involved in Democratic politics, is that sort of regathering the troops to fight another battle after sort of the defeat they took in November.
Yeah.
And there's no, at least as far as I can tell, no clear consensus on how to do that. Did former Mayor Barrett, former Ambassador Barrett, offer his thoughts about where his party might go?
Yeah, we didn't explore that all that too much. And Steve, you've set the stage now perfectly for him to come talk with you and explore that question.
I've got the questions already written
Look
down.
at you. See, we're ready to rock and roll. But no, I think he was reflective on the fact that there is now a lot of concern surrounding President Trump in European countries, and just taking that perspective from the relationship with the European Union and what that may look like in months down the road. And he expressed his concern and the concern of European leaders. So I think he wants to be out on the forefront, whether not necessarily being running for political office, but spreading that message from a Democratic perspective about implications down the road.
I'm going to do this when he comes on with me, whether it's on the show or on the podcast. I don't know if you had a chance to or not, but sort of the fun part of being an ambassador for the United States. Did he talk about that?
He did, yeah. I mean, listen, you get to travel a lot, right? You get to see a lot of different parts of the world. And the country he was in. And
food's got to be spectacular.
Yeah, and just building these relationships and talking. And he talked about an interesting part about his security. He had security in country as a U.S. ambassador, but when he crossed the border, that security no longer existed. So some freedom, right? When he wanted to go out for dinner with his wife, or he described a time when he wanted to go play a round of golf and didn't necessarily want security watching him. So they just hopped the border when security wasn't with it and went and played a round of golf 20, 30 miles down the road.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
The life of an ambassador, former mayor, Tom Barrett. If you're listening, let's get that scheduled. All right, Matt Smith, what he's working on, what he's going to be talking about this week, maybe look ahead to the next Upfront episode on Channel 12. Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12. Lots more to get to in the remaining 20 minutes of the program. Political Power Hour, 620 WTMJ.
We've all heard of Larry Bird. Allow us to introduce Derry Bird.
It's A.J. Green slashing a three down from the right wing on the other end of the court. It's a one-point game. Giannis back to A.J. A.J. going to try to answer. Off-balance three, and he hits it. How did he hit that one? The Derry Bird going deep into his bag of tricks there.
We're the home of Derry Bird and the Bucks. WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Advent. I love talking about Advent because it changed my life. I heard my friend Jody talking about it the other day. This is one of those things that you can do for yourself if you're struggling with sleep, and that's such a big part of your existence, right? You need to be rested and refreshed in the morning. If your nose isn't working properly, do what I did. Go to Advent. Quick 30-minute visit. You can ask all the questions you want. They'll put you at ease. They added in a really simple sleep study for me at home in my own bed. They figured out my problem. This is a very common one. Now, everyone's different problems, different solutions. Mine was sinuses, nasal passages. Again, very common. After a short procedure done in office probably 5 years ago now, back to breathing better than ever. My wife, Kathy, and I sleeping through the whole night. That's the kind of night, that's the kind of sleep that you want and you deserve. If you struggle like we used to, take the time to see how Advent can help. Find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your nights better. Go to adventknows.com and schedule an appointment today, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Just like most cars and trucks can't run without oil, no person can function without food. That's why through March 1st, the Auto Dealers of Metro Milwaukee is contributing $1 from every oil change to Feeding America, Eastern Wisconsin. Every dollar provides 3 healthy meals. Over the past 14 years, Adam has provided more than 2.6 million meals to people in southeast Wisconsin. And now the need is greater than ever. Find a participating Adam dealer near you at adamm.com.
Wisconsin is as hard-working of a place as you'll ever find. People here are tough, but even the toughest among us need help after a serious accident. At Gruber Law Offices, we won't stop fighting for you and your family. One call, that's all.
Fingers come in different sizes.
It's one of the first things you learn as a jeweler.
And a ring can only be sized up or down a little bit.
which means it's a really good thing to know your ring size.
And it's an even better thing to know their ring size.
This is why we're announcing
The Ring Size Registry at Kessler's.
we're doing it as a public service. It's completely free.
Free. Isn't that a great price?
Here's how it works.
Just drop into any Kessler's Diamonds location and tell one of the owners that you'd like to know your ring size.
Kessler's is an employee-owned company, so whoever greets you at the door is an owner.
They'll determine your ring sizes and add them to our Ring Size Registry.
Then, when someone wants to know your ring size,
Because, maybe they want to surprise you.
all they have to do is call or stop into Kessler's.
Surprises can be fun, don't you think?
We're happy to do this for you, even if you don't buy a ring from us.
But after you take a look around, we think you probably will. Visit KesslersDiamonds.com for a location near you and register your ring sizes today.
Joining me on the program this morning is Monday edition of the Political Power Hour, 620 WTMJ from Channel 12. Political Director Matt Smith. All right, Matt. We always sort of do this segment on where you're looking this week, maybe guests that you're looking, trying to, like, at this moment, Monday, obviously early in your schedule.
Yeah.
Who do you want? Who should your listeners on the Upfront program, viewers, who should they want to hear from?
There's a lot of time between now and next weekend. A lot can happen.
I know you don't schedule it all on Monday because there's a lot of moving pieces in
Usually
politics.
mid to late week is when we start booking based on what's happening. But listen, I mean, there's a ton going on, right? We saw late last week these town halls with Congressman Scott Fitzgerald and
we had
Glenn
a texter
Grothman.
that said, what about those folks? I mean, that might be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so it's going to be curious to see. We saw their town halls in West Bend. Grothman was up in the Fox Valley. Tons of people showing up. A lot of Democrats confronting these Republican congressmen in Republican districts about President Trump, about Elon Musk. And it'll be curious to see if this develops on the ground level at all in battleground states like Wisconsin, and how our members of Congress, especially Republican members of Congress, react to this.
If you remember, when's the last time I talked to Speaker Robin Voss? Obviously, he's going to be a big player coming up.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm curious where his head's at. I've seen some of his posts.
Yeah.
He's very supportive of the efforts at the federal level. But I think I heard in our news earlier that the Wisconsin version of Doge hasn't had a meeting in like a year plus, right?
Yeah, this was just recently created, and he did reference after the governor's budget address that this committee he's created is going to look into savings. Republicans said in their budget negotiations they're going to look to reduce the size of the state government. Governor Evers' proposal adds some like 880 state jobs beyond what is currently employed. Republicans say that's not going to fly. We're going to cut state jobs, if anything.
I see that as a shot across the bow. He knows, Governor Evers knows what's coming from the federal example that, to his credit, Donald Trump has sort of identified this desire by a lot of Americans to have less government. I think the governor in Wisconsin said basically that's not happening here. Well, Republicans will have something to say about that.
Right. Well, it's going to be curious to see what happens at the federal level, right? With Elon Musk and this "Give me the 5 things you did last week with federal workers." I'm
scrambling to think of my 5 things.
I did kind of run through my head. I said, you know what? Would I have 5 good things if I got that email today?
How many offices, how many places of business are doing that
today?
Yeah, just to echo what the president and Elon Musk are doing.
Just to see how people respond.
Yeah. Because some of the responses I've seen at the federal level, nasty. Yeah. Now, whether that's smart, I wouldn't give you that advice to be like have a nasty retort to your employer asking you questions.
Make you sweat a little bit.
Yeah. Now, you might want to be funny. Maybe that lighten the mood a little bit. All right. He is Matt Smith from Channel 12, political director there. We're going to take a quick break here. I want to have a little bit of time left for the conversation about political fatigue. I've asked a bunch of people in the building and outside of this great place to work here on Wisconsin Avenue in downtown Milwaukee about the subject of political fatigue, even though we have a big election coming, Wisconsin Supreme Court. What you're seeing, what you're hearing, Matt Smith. More with Matt after this on 620 WTMJ.
Hey Bucks fans, it's Justin Garcia from the Bucks Radio Network, here to tell you about the launch of the Bucks Central podcast feed. Everything Bucks, on demand, in one spot. From sideline to sideline, hear all the ankle-breaking, rim-rattling, and twine-tingling highlights, exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe to the Bucks Central podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. All the Bucks content your heart desires in one spot. Check out the Bucks Central podcast feed.
Hey, WTMJ, Steve Scaffidi for Heiser Automotive. I love talking about Heiser. I've had the luxury, privilege, honor of driving their great vehicles for more than 5 years now. Right now, part of my experience with Heiser, every once in a while I get a pre-owned, and this one's a gorgeous pre-owned vehicle. 2023 Chevy Silverado, 1500 LT, awesome color. Even my wife Kathy loves it. Glacier blue metallic color, black cloth interior. Got those cool mats that you don't have to worry about your carpeting. Low mileage. You can buy it right out from underneath me. Just go to Heiser.com. Miles per gallon. Get this. 24 city, 29 highway. It does not burn through the gas. Towing capacity, everything you need, payload, all there. Go to Heiser.com online. Check out all their new and pre-owned vehicles. Their team would love to get you into the vehicle of your dreams as soon as tomorrow, or maybe even today if you're aggressive and get there right away and look at their cars and buy one. They put their customers first. That's why they say every day at Heiser, today's your day.
Shop Steinhaffel's President's Day mattress sale. Save up to $500 on Tempur-Pedic adjustable base sets, plus get $300 in Steinhaffel's cash. Queen Tempur-Pedic mattresses start at just $50 per month. Only at Steinhaffel's and steinhaffels.com.
The Census Bureau says more than 12,000 Americans turn 65 each day. It's a surge they call Peak 65, the highest number in history. Some Annex clients retire early. Some keep working because they love it. You know why? Because they've got custom plans built by fee-only fiduciaries. They identified their wants and needs, and we went to work. We want to do the same for you. Annex does financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Visit AnnexWealth.com and click the Get Started button.
WTMJ's Eric Bilstead here for Tri-County Contracting. You want to know the price of a new roof on your home today? Well, it's easy. Just go to TriCountyContractingWI.com, click on the Instant Roof Quote button, put in your address and email, click the Show My Roof Price, and there you go. Zero wait time. There's your quote. You shop online for everything else. Who says you can't shop online for a new roof? TriCountyContractingWI.com. It's worry-free roofing, siding, and windows. TriCountyContractingWI.com.
Get the beat of the Bucks straight from a fan favorite and Bucks legend.
Welcome to the fantastic voyage. Marcus Johnson, the captain of this vessel.
Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson, a Bucks Plus audio production.
My first mate, Chris Johnson, the only father and son tandem.
Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks and conversations with the biggest names in basketball. This week, Marcus and Chris are joined by Bucks head coach Doc Rivers. Find Here District now on Bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, or wherever you get your podcast. WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station.
Fly me to the moon. Let me
talking politics on a Monday with my friend Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12. So a concept that I've been working on a few shows coming up is political fatigue, because we went through 2 years of the run-up to November.
Yep.
And we had this sort of lull. Now, we do have a Wisconsin Supreme Court race, which you and I have been watching the commercials pop up on the monitors. That's obviously high attention. It's not a presidential race. Do you get a sense, and I do, I'll just admit, I've heard from people that they're kind of pulling back a little bit. Do you get a sense there's political fatigue out there?
Yeah. I think there's some people who are, yes, as you mentioned, just pulling back from everything. The lead up to November, especially in a state like Wisconsin, is incredibly intense. I think I think what we're going to see will be the first true test is what happens in April, what turnout looks like, because this, as we know, is a political race on steroids at this point, with the money coming in and national views, and the first really, really big race in a battleground state in the new Trump administration.
You talk about the Supreme Court race. There's always these sort of headline makers. One of the headline makers in the texter alludes to it is the conversation about inseminated persons. Now, I know that this is sort of related from the governor's perspective, his office perspective, to sort of the IVF part of that equation. Someone using that. How big a piece of this debate do you think that's going to be?
I guess we'll see, right? And it, depending on how the governor responds to it and what the reaction is from conservatives and Republicans, we'll see how much life this has and what the explanations are and what the potential implications are down the road.
I would caution people who think this is sort of a game changer, because I've heard it from both Republicans say this conversation is what this race is about. I've heard this before, and I'll point to abortion in the presidential election.
Yeah.
While that was significant probably a year before the election, when that ruling came out from the U.S. Supreme Court, I don't know that it was a key player, because I heard and we all heard, right? Gas and groceries, right? Crime, border policy, immigration. That was sort of where that race went. I don't know that this one's certainly going to revolve around this one. It'll be a piece of it for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I think abortion in the state Supreme Court race is going to be high.
Act 10?
I think Act 10, now that we know all but certain the new court will hear this current lawsuit before the court, I think that is going to become even more incredibly high profile. You see the commercials start to point to their pasts and their records as judges. And then I think the national influence, the money from both sides, Elon Musk, George Soros on the Democratic side, these millions upon millions of dollars coming in from all sides. Both sides are attacking each other for this, and how that plays out and what endorsements these candidates receive and how they respond to those endorsements from Planned Parenthood or Pro-Life Wisconsin, or you name your group. What promises have you made, if any? What do these endorsements mean in this court race?
We got a lot of texts on, and we mentioned this briefly, is the town halls. A lot of texters are on the pro-town hall saying a great way to sort of gauge the public sentiment about some of the things that are happening in Washington. And this story's not going away.
No, and listen, and whether this becomes resemblant of or not, it initially made me remembered the Obama years and the town halls surrounding Obamacare and healthcare and how those exploded and how those led to the Tea Party and those candidates running in 2010. Whether something like this happened, it just started. That was perhaps the last time we had major town halls become newsworthy.
I don't know the answer to this question. Maybe you do. Are Democrats holding town halls just like Republicans are now holding town halls?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think these town halls are typical for all lawmakers, right? Usually they go completely beyond the radar, whether they call them open office hours or what have you with members of Congress. But not often are they high profile where you get tons and tons and tons of people. But holding these town halls are pretty typical for members of Congress within their district when they're back home.
All right, total fun question.
Yeah.
Because it's warming out there, and we're probably 40-some degrees already. Will you shed your coats when you go to work at some point this week or on the way home?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost considered wearing a lighter jacket today,
too.
but I didn't.
It was still chilly this morning.
Yeah, I mean, with my girls at home, it's now the debate about coats and hats and mittens. And that's going to start, and I'm sure shorts are going to come into the equation at some point.
I felt like I had gone back in time because arguing with my grandson Max about putting a coat on yesterday. He wore shorts.
Yeah.
Which is a bold move, I think, when it's 20-some degrees.
But it is the daily struggle battle, and then all of a sudden you say, all right, you make your decision, you step outside, good luck.
Host of Upfronts, you can find it across television stations across this great states, and certainly here on Channel 12 Milwaukee. Political Director Matt Smith. We'll do it again in a couple of weeks.
Have a great week.
All right, Jeff Sherman's The Upswing. Before we get to that local news, that's all next right here on 620 WTMJ.
This change has leveled us up while being able to maintain the same quality of service that we've always provided with no upfront fees and